for a while now, but this is a video that I've definitely been holding off on purpose. Not just because Halloween Ends was coming out, but because I feel like I am defusing a bomb right now, and one wrong move is going to cause fucking chaos. Today I'm going to be ranking the Halloween franchise, obviously including Halloween Ends now it's just come out. So I will waste no time in giving you my number 13, and that is going to be Halloween Resurrection. Now this film is in last place for honestly so many reasons. It just does not feel at all like a Halloween film. I feel like this film humiliates and disrespects Michael as a character at times. He comes across so inferior. To me, if I was to pick a best part of this film, it's probably going to be the opening and the start with Laurie, just because we get a little bit of Jamie Lee Curtis, but even still, it's really not great. But to me, the most significant thing that happens in that film is obviously the death of Laurie Strode. It's just not a good look for the Halloween franchise. Halloween Resurrection is a film that I despise going back and watching, but every so often I will still, for some reason, do it. Coming in at number 12, I have Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. The only thing that I take from this film that I relatively like was the big, huge, aggressive Michael Myers that we got in both the Rob Zombie films. Other than that, I think the plot, the idea that his ghost mum and little Michael kind of accompanies him as he's getting to Haddonfield and telling him what to do, seemed so far from what Michael is all about to me. And in my opinion, the brutality of the film that I actually kind of do like. I do think Rob Zombie, when given the right project, delivers horrific, terrifying films, and this film doesn't necessarily disappoint in that category. It's just the fact that it's Michael Myers that's doing this. Number 11 is going to be Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. For me, a big reason why I didn't like this film, except from the mask, the alien-looking mask, is because we begin to get an explanation for Michael. And I know there's an audience there for the people that did enjoy the later movies where they go into the Cult of Thorn and the Man in Black, but for me, I just never really got into that. I never felt any kind of intrigue at all into that path and idea that that's what Michael is evil for. I also hate that we got Man Bun Michael. Something that I do like though in this film is obviously having Danielle Harris as Jamie. It was really good seeing her return, and I was really excited when I heard that Rachel was in the film. However, she gets killed off. I thought that was a little bit of a waste, if I'm completely honest. Number 10, I've got Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. As I said from the previous film, the whole Cult of Thorn was something that just never really appealed to me at all, which is why Halloween 6 scores so high. And it annoys me because I do like George P. Wilbur, and I think he did a great job as Michael. I know some people have a problem with the mask that was in this film, but I really didn't mind it at all. I thought it was quite fitting for almost the build of George P. Wilbur. And again, what I like is that Michael feels violent, aggressive, and really dangerous in this film. It's just that the film has these big flaws for me where, you know, the Cult of Thorn, the whole big deep dive into that, and then Michael and Jamie having a kid. Like, when I first watched it, I just felt so lost, and I felt like I now didn't get the franchise at all. Number 9, I've got Rob Zombie's Halloween remake. Now, one thing I can say is I didn't hate this film as much as a lot of people do. Unfortunately for me, though, this was actually my introduction into the Halloween franchise. You know, as I said for Rob Zombie's second film, I liked how aggressive Michael was in this. I think Rob Zombie did a great job at making a scary-looking Michael Myers. I also really enjoy the chase scene between him and Laurie towards the end of the film. It is kind of like the original. You know, when I watch this film, I am scared afterwards, but just for kind of the wrong reasons, and it just doesn't feel very accurate towards Michael Myers as a character. Obviously, in this film, a lot of the first part is to do with the upbringing of Michael. He's explained pretty much and given kind of the classic serial killer reason, like bad home life. You know, all these things that kind of build up to make it seem like Michael just snapped because he couldn't really take the abuse he was getting. Again, if it was another killer and not Michael that we were seeing in this film, it would be a horror that I definitely enjoy more because it's real. The way Rob Zombie does it is he makes it something that really could happen in general life. Like, a guy could snap and do what he did, and to me that makes it scary for a whole different reason. Just again, as I said, it's not very accurate towards 78 and the the real reason that Michael was so scary. Number 8, we have Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. I found it really hard to place this film on this list because as a lone film out of the franchise, I do really enjoy Halloween 3. However, as a film in this franchise, while it definitely is better made than some of the films that I'm going to be ranking higher than this, to me this is just where I feel like it sits right now. I don't really have a lot to say on it other than that. I did enjoy this film. Again, there's not really a reason I'm putting it at what seems like such a high spot other than, you know, I'm a big Michael fan, so 9 times out of 10 I'm going to pick the film that Michael's in. At number 7 we've got Halloween Ends, the new addition to the franchise. As I said just then, Halloween 3 in my opinion is definitely a much better crafted film and horror with a far better end result. But if the two were put in front of me right now, I'd choose Halloween Ends to watch first, which could and probably definitely is a recency bias. Obviously, I've seen the film less, it's new, it's fresh out, but all I can really say is it's just where I am right now. This could change. But speaking more on Halloween Ends, it's another very different addition to the franchise. While I did surprisingly enjoy the idea of Corey and seeing him go down that dark path, to me, it just didn't feel like I was watching a Halloween film. But I've given my thoughts in Halloween Ends on the last few videos, so feel free to check them out if you want to know what I thought about the movie more. But that's just where it ranks right now. Number 6, Halloween Kills. I still have a lot of fun going back and watching Halloween Kills for the obvious reason we get loads of kills. I love James Jude Courtney in this film. I think he absolutely nails it. There are definitely scripting issues, we all know this. Some of the dialogue that comes across on the movie is just really poor and awkward when it's acted out on screen. I also found a lot of the hospital scenes dragged, and obviously the whole Mr. Tivoli and his scene, it just felt like it was so unneeded and disconnected from what was actually going on. But the reason I have so much fun with this movie is because I personally think except from 1978, it's definitely my favourite portrayal of Michael Myers. It's a great film to kind of watch at any time. Even if you're not fully watching the film, you can kind of snap in and out of it. That's what I really like about it. It's an easy watch. Number 5, I've got Halloween 2018. I think a little bit of an unpopular opinion is that I actually was unsure on whether I preferred Halloween Kills or 2018. My reason for this was I found Kills a lot more entertaining just in terms of me being a Michael Myers fan. But I think as a whole to this franchise, the way 2018 brought back the feel of Halloween, we got a perfectly crafted new mask for Michael that is aged and it's creepy looking. And I just think this film holds a lot more weight than Halloween Kills did. You know, we were introduced to James Jude Courtney as the Shape, and just like he did in Kills, he absolutely smashed it. The movement, I feel, was so close to Nick Castle. Obviously, I know he did some scenes, but I mean, with this whole trilogy, one of the saving graces has absolutely been James Jude Courtney. I'm really sad we're probably not going to see him as Michael again, but I'm so glad we did get to see him as Michael because he absolutely smashed it in my opinion. All in all, I just think this is a really solid alternative sequel to the original. You know, it's modern, it's up to date, and it's one that I go back and haven't, you know, it's modern, it's up to date, and it's one that I go back and watch, and again, I'll have a lot of fun with it, and I'll really enjoy it. At number 4, I've got Halloween 2. I know this film can be seen as quite sacred to a lot of fans. Obviously, it hasn't made my top 3, but I definitely enjoyed this film. I enjoy most of the films just in general out of all 13. And to be honest, when I watched Halloween 2, I wasn't overly fussed with the entire film being at the hospital. You know, I think when you just sit and watch Halloween 2 without having just watched Halloween 1, I find it a little bit boring if I'm honest. To me, I see it as an extension of the original Halloween, and I definitely enjoy this film a lot more if I've seen Halloween 78 right before. I didn't really like Michael's movement in this film. I feel like he's very slow and robotic at times, and from my first watch I thought this and I couldn't quite just shake it out my head. Like, it was a constant thought as I was watching the film. And I remember up till like a couple of years ago, I didn't really like the mask. I thought it looked a little bit squashed and it looked like he'd smell a fart. His face was kind of squished. But having said that, there was a point where that did change for me, and I actually do find the mask quite menacing looking at times. So yeah, I did really enjoy the film. So this is a film that does kind of change position as well for me a lot. I can imagine in a month or 2 months it might change again. But in at number 3, we've got Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Now, I have watched this film so many times. I love the introduction of Jamie as a character. Danielle Harris really does have a special place in this franchise. She was such a talented young actress. But the one thing that just grinds my gears with this film, while I love near enough every other aspect of it, is The Mask, and I just find him so dumb looking at times. But I do get such a buzz when I see the opening credits to this film. They immediately get me in like the Halloween spooky vibe kind of mood. And I think a lot of this film carries that atmosphere as well. It feels like a Halloween film to me. I think Rachel is also a great character in this movie. You know, we got Loomis making his return after Halloween 2. He's got his burnt face. I just think this movie's so great. I love going back and watching it. I watch it so often. And yeah, as of right now, it's never really felt like it's gotten old to me. I've never felt a need to put any of the other films that I've mentioned above it. But in at number 2, we've got Halloween H2O 20 years later. I definitely can see why this is a big hot take to put at number 2 in a ranking. But my reasons are, this is a film that, again, just like Halloween 4, I put this on all the time. It gets me in the mood for Halloween, and I think this, for me, is one of the best Laurie Strodes we get in the entire franchise. I know a lot of people have a problem with this film due to the mask situation, and I do completely get it. I find it confusing at times too, and just like, could they really not have just made it straightforward? But in terms of the mask that we see mostly throughout the film, I don't mind it at all. I know a lot of people had a problem with the eye holes and that we could like basically see into his soul, and I don't know, for some reason that was just something that never bothered me as much. The element of Michael vs. Laurie in this film comes across so strong to me. You know, the final third of this movie is one of my favourites. I think it's such a strong ending, and I don't necessarily mind that it isn't set on like the streets of Haddonfield. I don't mind that we're in this boarding school. You know, I did find the school very eerie at times, and I think it was something different. I also really like the introduction of John Tate and how we got to see into his relationship with his mom after everything that happened, and you know, we can kind of see into Laurie's trauma more and how that's kind of rubbed off on him and how he's done with it. Like, it just felt very well done, and I like the way the events of the previous films with Laurie and Michael have affected her. But of course, at number 1, we've got Halloween 1978, the original. When I watched this film and properly understood it and understood Michael, there was never and will never be a time that I can see where this movie does not rank number 1. The way this movie is directed is just genius, and I really love it more knowing the story behind the movie. You know, if you watch some documentaries just on the making of this film, it's such a tight-knit film crew. You know, a lot of people just being a friend of a friend, and they all just got together and trusted in each other and came out with just an absolute game changer at the time. I don't need to go on a massive tangent as to why this film is number 1. I'm sure a lot of you guys can understand why. However, one thing I will say is, surprisingly maybe, even though this film is at the top of my list, it definitely isn't the film I watch the most. I'm not too sure why that is. It's not because I feel like I can overwatch it. I just like to pick my moments with this film, and when I do sit down and watch it, I have such a good time. You know, it sets me off on an absolute tangent. Once I've watched 1978, I have to just watch them all over again. But yeah, that is my ranking of the franchise. Obviously, this is just my opinion. If your ranking's different, that's all good. I haven't got a problem with your ranking. Don't have a problem with my ranking. But yeah, in the comments below, if you want to put down where you rank these films from like just, you know, 13 to 1 and then just put them down at the side. It'd be cool to see what you guys think. Yeah, that's it for this video, and I'll see you guys in